Now for a slightly different perspective on the dispersed water project, we have the Executive Director from St. Johns River Water Management District, Dr. Ann Shortell. And as Noah mentioned earlier, Ann was the Executive Director for Suwannee River for 3 years and was doing such a great job, the governor moved her down to St. Johns Water Management District, where she has been serving for the past year as its Executive Director. Prior to that, she was the Director of Office of Water Policy at FDEP, has spent over 25 years professionally involved with water and water-related issues. She has her Bachelor of Science in Biology from Mercer University and a PhD or doctorate from University of Notre Dame in limnology, which is the study of biological, chemical, and physical features of lakes and other freshwater bodies. So there's your word for today, your glossary word. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm well aware that we're inching ever closer to our refreshment period, so I will be brief, but I want to reintroduce Mr. Doug Bornick. Many of you know him. Recently reappointed for his third term on the St. Johns River Water Management District Governing Board, and I would say very instrumental from the standpoint of both South Florida and St. John's in terms of dispersed water storage. And I'm still trying to train him out of water farming, but he persists.
Old habits die hard.
I have to do this too. What happened? Nothing. Okay, awesome. You're hired.
All right, Vanna.
Okay, so we just had this gigantic ribbon cutting for 160,000 acres that the Corps of Engineers and the district partnered on for the last 4 decades, 40 years. But this was essentially perhaps the most early deliberate dispersed water management project. And it's beautiful. It cost about $250 million all in, not only for the land acquisition, which was at fair market value, but also for the infrastructure that went with it. It is flood control for Brevard and Indian River County, and many, many other benefits. But I wanted to mention that because on this map, it also brings to mind the Indian River Lagoon. And the Indian River Lagoon has been in the newspapers recently, and not in a good way. The guacamole, algae, it's all down in South Florida. And I just want to make sure everybody understands, in our district, we are not connected with Lake Okeechobee in any way. But we had a massive fish kill on the upper portion of the lagoon, and 2/3 of the lagoon is actually in our district, much of which to the west is connected by lateral canals, cross-cut canals that artificially take water that would have gone to the upper basin of the St. Johns River and shunt that to the lagoon. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot that's underway, but a lot more to come. And I think there's the opportunity for agriculture to partner with the public sector to accomplish some of these goals. Okay, so because we really, 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 in some ways, want to be like South Florida, they were doing all this dispersed water management, we had to get in on the act. So we decided that we would go out for pilot testing on a very limited basis. And our concept is, as you've heard already, a little bit different than what South is doing. We asked for proposals within the Indian River Lagoon area where there was an established basin management action plan. Remember, you already heard that that's an area where load reductions of nitrogen and phosphorus must be reduced. So our program is predicated on water quality benefits associated with load reductions in a BMAP area. And we also specifically targeted in the central IRL area fallow citrus fields. And we ended up selecting 2. One is a smaller parcel, so it's a smaller pilot, and the other a larger one. And combined, the investment by the district over the next 13 or 14 years will be about $22 million. As you can see on this timeline, it's weighted towards construction on the front end, and then what's anticipated to be 10 or so years of per acre related payments for the actual load reductions, and then decommissioning at the end. This is all from our fund balance and ad valorem collections. That legacy bill that you are all hearing about, super for Springs and super for the Everglades and super for Lake Apopka, which everybody appreciates all of those areas. They do need funding to accomplish all of our goals, but we're looking forward to folks remembering that the Indian River Lagoon has some challenges as well for potential funding in the future. So basically what we're doing is contemplating monthly payments that depend on how much water can you bring into that storage area, and what is the load reduction in nitrogen and phosphorus based on how much leaves the property. If no water leaves the property, then you get credit for everything that came in. But at times, you know, we got storms that come through, and there may be water coming out, discharging on the other end. So it's that net benefit. What this means and why our two pilot project guinea pigs are nervously talking back and forth with us is trying to, you know, address that equitable idea. How can we ensure that even though the payments will ebb and flow a little bit over time, that in the end, the agricultural participant understands that they're going to be whole. So that's our goal. So, I mean, this is a financial thing. I didn't create these graphs, but I wanted to give you your money's worth for a financial presentation. So this is the sort of thing we're looking at. We're looking at monthly, you know, if we have a dry winter, the ins and outs will be, there might not be any out, but the incoming may be lower in nitrogen and phosphorus than in the wetter months. So those payments are going to ebb and flow. Next graphic. And this one actually does have dollar signs on it. This is our smaller parcel, and it shows you just kind of an average estimate over the months in terms of payments, and then the annualized for the year, based again on load reductions, which I think it is important to note because it's something that can be measured and calculated, and it doesn't, I think it's going to make a lot of sense to stakeholders that aren't in agriculture, because they can understand what is the basis of the payment. Now, the numbers are going to change from this one to the next one. We actually think that the per acre payment for the smaller project is going to be much higher per acre than it is for the larger parcel. And that is because of the concentrations of nitrogen and phosphorus in the source water. Again, what's the load reduction going to be? So here you can see that overall, because they're putting more water on more property, the annual expected payments are larger, but not larger per acre. This project is about 18 million gallons a day we're estimating on average, and the smaller one about 5 million gallons a day. But again, per acre on the smaller one, estimating right now to be a higher payment per acre because the loads incoming are larger. Next. So what does this mean in terms of opportunities? Well, when we figure out how to make this work in an equitable way for everybody, when we're out of the pilot testing, we have, 540,000 acres in agriculture that are currently in adopted BMAP areas. So there may be lots of areas where you're looking at your layout and thinking, that one area over there, it's really, I can't do very much with it. Well, maybe you can do more than you think if you take that piece out of agriculture. and put it into a program such as this that will help our water resources from a water quality standpoint. Now, I think there's a lot of other opportunities that eventually will get wrapped in, and you started to touch on that. We have an opportunity with longevity and with water quality. And by that, I mean it is legal in this state to actually purchase water quality credits in BMAP areas. Somebody's got to be willing to buy them, but you may be a willing seller if you've got them. Up to now, DEP has not been willing to do this except in perpetuity. These projects are not in perpetuity, but I would like you to look at the next slide. Water recharge and water supply are also possible on these same sites. This project I want you to know about, St. Johns County Crop Alternative Program. The county needs BMAP credits. Agriculture can produce them in the following way. They can take active agricultural acres that are maybe marginal for them and convert them to silviculture for 15 or 20 years. And the county will get the credit for that load reduction in nitrogen and phosphorus. Everyone was skeptical that we could collectively get this worked out, but DEP has agreed. And the idea for St. Johns County is it's voluntary from the standpoint of the agriculturalists. They get paid per acre, and they're in silviculture, on whatever that plot's going to be for the next while. There's opt-out clauses and all of that, but they should be whole. The county is whole, and the state will end up being whole because, St. Johns County in 20 years will either re-up those properties, put some different properties in, or switch to a different mechanism. Very important to keep your eye on this because I think this could be very important for agriculture. Nobody's talked about the statewide water yield project on silviculture lands, but that's been going on. It's in the middle of its third year. I don't have enough time to talk about this right now, but keep your eye on this too, because changing how our silviculture is managed, especially in areas of high recharge, is going to produce a lot of water recharge benefit for our springs and for our water resources. And if willing landowners participate in something like this, they should be compensated.
Thank you, Ann. Any questions for Dr. Shortell? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I thought
I'm
you
done.
Okay.
Somebody, over drinks, you can ask me about our cost share program.
Oh,